Hello, Moon Boys. I found your gap.
Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Good morning, people of camera number 2. Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, and a lot to talk about today, not just with some live trading on good old Dribbit, as I do want to follow up on my streamer account from yesterday. There are some very interesting things going on there, but also want to follow up on price action as well, as we did hit the top side of our range and created the bottom side of our range, and now we get to play the very fun game of, is this a high or low, or our next lower high, which is the age-old game, the favorite game of hodlers near, far, and wide. Anyways, before we get into that, I want to remind myself to talk about all the programs, which are all on sale for 20% off at crowntrading.net. No code is needed or anything like that, and we do have payment plans that go out to like 10 months, as I do want to allow. I want it to kind of be looked at as like a college course or something, where you can pay over time. It's gonna take probably that amount of time to even complete these programs, but of course, before ever even considering any of these programs, I always want to say this: check out the free content on this YouTube channel. If that gets you where you want to be, you have no need for these sorts of things. If you are completely fine with where you are, if you're completely happy, then disregard. It's all good. But if you are that type of person who's actually interested in them, definitely watch the videos to make sure that it's applicable to you, and then also make sure to read the reviews to, again, make sure that it's make sure that you understand what you're getting into. I do want to say at the outset, though, it's very important to me to make sure that it's actually a good fit, and usually the biggest consideration comes down to timing of them, because the technical analysis program and the options program are both about 40 hours long, and realistically you're going to want to watch those multiple times as the years go past to get to the deeper understandings of those programs. And then of course the newest program, the Neophytes program, which I just uploaded the video on that yesterday, explaining it. Definitely check that one out as well, but that's only for complete beginners. If you've been on this channel for more than like a few months, you probably know a good amount of that content already, so it may not be valuable to you. But again, watch the video on it. It'll go into much more detail there. And with that said, it's time to get onto the Krown Trading app, which is showing the open interest that we've been looking for, to kind of look for a local bottom on this move. We are finally getting into that 500 million area. Elsa's laughing in the background. Hey. She can't even laugh right now. It hurts too much. anyways, open interest getting around to that 500 million, half a billion marker, which we've been looking for, which I do think is going to denote a nice local bottom. The question is this a local bottom or a macro bottom before a macro reversal? Well, reversal. It feels like I said that one wrong. The funny thing with that is that, well, after about a 50% dump, I think it's very difficult to have any air of bullishness, but I do want to talk about some short and medium term ideas here. With all of that said, I want to once again point out the difference between all these major exchanges here. There's been some phenomenal arbitrage opportunities between all the major exchanges from all the different time zones, or well, the different zones in general. In fact, a lot of people in the program chat have been like posting about how they've been arbing on XYZ exchange, and then usually Coinbase, because they're just trading at a massive premium, and it's viable and it can be done. And this tool right here definitely helped a lot of that, especially yesterday when there's like a $500 difference between a lot of the major exchanges. You quickly see that for example, if you're using BitMEX, and then you see like Coinbase and Bitstamp trading higher, for example, those are a part of the index, so people are getting marked against that. So naturally, you probably have a play there. Anyways, with all that said, let's now get into the actual charts, or do we want to get into the charts first? No, let's get into Ribbit first. My position just expired here. There we go. And, my options position just expired here. I do want to update on this account. As you can see, it is now 2.7 Bitcoin, I guess, profit, running P&L. So I like that. Nicely done. But what I want to do now is I want to cover this position again, because I do have an open long, and I'm exposed about 5 Bitcoins long. So I do want to make sure that I cover this up before the day's end. And going back into our timeframes right here, remember that the range that we spoke about from yesterday were essentially hit, especially to the upside. The downside, now we are just starting to formulate, but the upside We're looking for a move to about 5,900. Now, BitMexico did almost get there. They got 58.73.5. The other exchange is getting a little bit more deeper into that territory. GDAX and Coinbase, for example, almost hitting the $6,000 market to the T. So we can consider that area hit. And now we do have another high side of the range. And you know what? While we're here on Stamp, because this one does seem to actually operate really, really well, I will put the blue boxes of peace and prosperity onto this chart. And let me just make sure that you can see the thingies on the left hand side. You can. Okay, that's good. By the way, thank you for the constructive feedback on yesterday's video for the technical difficulties. I do apologize about that. Usually I check beforehand, but yesterday I just want to get a video out. But looking at this right here, still the top side of the range, and the proverbial, the most preliminary resistance coming in right around low 6,000, essentially between 59.50, we'll call it, and 61.50-ish region is where I'd be looking towards. And as long as Bitcoin's below there, there's no talk of any sort of even like medium term reversal. We could talk about low time frame stuff, especially because the ranges are so big right here that there certainly are a lot of opportunities. And oh wow, we actually did hit the bottom side of we hit what would have been the bottom side of the range yesterday as well. If I would have plotted this out on Mexico here. Anyways, this is what I'd be looking at from a short-term perspective. As long as Bitcoin's below 6,100, hard to be bullish on it for a medium-term move back up to like the mid to high 6,000s. I think 6,500 would be of note there, and in 6,900 as well. But we'll get to that bridge when we cross it. To the downside, of course, now that Bitcoin did get that nice wick down yesterday to retest the last low on a closure basis, right around 48.50, we'll call it. And this is consistent with most exchanges. Of course, BitMEX is an outlier here, so I would default to the average, which is going to be again Stamp, GDAX, and well, basically those two guys seem to be the most dependable right now. They did test this area, so that actually does give us another, a low to be operating off of. The question is this a higher low in place? If it's a higher low, then we'd expect it to be defended essentially by the boo laws here, even though the boo laws they got fucking boo kicked so hard for the last few days. I'm not sure that there's any left, but for now it is holding. Although, as you can see on the lower term time frames, it looks very, very weak. It does look like it's kind of rolling over. We still have lower highs, even on like an hourly or perhaps even like a 2 hour as well. Yes, indeed we do. So it's not looking like the picture of health and fitness. I do think that it's going to come back down and test around this low at 5,200. Again, this is on Stamp and in GDAX. It does look like Mexico is trading about $50 lower below parity right now. But I would be looking for a test here. I think that it's going to initially have a bounce, but if you do start to see 2 hour orders closing below, let's call it 5,200, I would look for extension all the way down here, and I'm going to flip this box up, create the liquid zone between 48.50 and 40 and about 49.50. So $100 rate range down here. This one is incredibly important to hold. If this one doesn't hold, well, that bootlaw market's going to be on hold for another who knows, a long time. But I would be looking for a quick retest of the low 4,000s, 40. What is this area right here? We need to like really go down to the lower time frames to even get something that's actionable. Not all that helpful. Around 4,100 is the only thing that I'm getting from this. And also 44.50 right here if you go down to like a 30-minute, but this is not what you want to be seeing. Hopefully, what bulls are going to be looking at here, though, is they're going to be looking at this as like potentially a pennant forming, off of the bounce. And to be fair, the bounce has been pretty damn good. I mean, $2,000 up from the low, from top to bottom on yesterday's rally. I think it was about 2,500 is pretty damn good. And probably does align with this creating a local low here. But longer term, there are some very major considerations which I am quite skeptical about. Anyways, but for right now, it does look to me like it's gonna inevitably test this region right here at about 5,200. I would expect to bounce on the first pass, and probably resolution coming in either later today or tomorrow. Looking at this as a pennant, it would imply resolution. Actually later today, so we won't have to wait all that long to figure this one out. But if we do essentially get any sort of a breakage above, or any sort of what time frame? Oh my God, we can't do this on a 30-minute. We need to go to it at the very least an hourly before I lose my fucking mind. we can see the top side of the range here pretty damn well, coming in right around, what is it, about 5,800. So if we were to get this, technically speaking, if we were to get this breakout, it would obviously break us above that next or I wouldn't even say major resistance, I'd say preliminary resistance on a low time. I mean, this is a fucking hourly right now. And we would be looking for another move back up to test actually around the top side of this blue box right here, which I'm going to move up just a smidgen to, I'm actually going to move it up quite, do I want to do that? Yeah, I do want to do that. We're going to tighten it up a little bit more, something like this. And it's going to be between about 6,000 and 6,150-ish region. So we would likely test the top side of this region, which is kind of around our last big breakdown point from 12th of March. And I would be looking for resistance right there. By the same token, if we break to the downside, I would be looking for a retest back down to 44.50. And I do like how this lines up with the 30-minute chart. So great. But overall, it is a weekend. So I am really not looking for. I would not be looking for a reversal here. I would say the biggest case for Bitcoin putting in a low is basically basically based off of traditional markets, which had a phenomenal close yesterday, and we do see them pretty much trade together. And this was very interesting to watch. I actually stayed up for the whole address by Trump to the U.S. Talking about the coronavirus and how we're going to do a state of emergency. And it was pretty fucking funny. And also, I mean, pretty fucking funny for the wrong reasons, but you got to be able to laugh in these situations. It's so, he's talking about, we're going to top up the oil so top. We're going to fill it up to the top, the tippy top. It's like, what are you saying, dude? It's just like the funniest fucking words, man. Just put this image in your mind that I can't help but not laugh. Or like also he's talking about like how great we're doing and how this is gonna pass like really, really soon. He's like, or it might not, or it could get worse. Might get worse, might get a lot worse actually. It's like, hey man, hey, don't say it like that. Fucking scaring me, man. But it's probably true, so fair enough. Anyways, more importantly, on SPY right on over here, we have a volume climax. This is a significant outlier. It really stands out on the board. Really, the only kind of comparable points that we've seen to this amount of volume being thrown down were back in 2008, 2009. Now, to be fair, in 2008, 2009, we were doing a massively more. Massively more. So for right now, I do think that at the very least we have a nice local low. We probably will rally up for the next, the next like week or so. But after that, is the damage done to the downside? I'm not so sure. I can make a case for the low. We do have a pretty hot historical volatility percentile on the weekly reading, which is typically when we do put in major pivots on the market. But as you can see, it can stay red for some time. And usually when it's starting to turn red, we're getting closer and closer to that low. But just because it's red does not mean that we immediately have a low. But high volume plus high volatility plus usually like your RSI getting down to this region and hopefully creating some divergence, that's going to be good enough for an actual, workable low going forwards here. So I do think that is relatively close. I think that if traditional markets do come down a little bit lower, they probably come down and base around the 2018 low right here at around 235 region on SPY. And at that point, it should be putting in some divergence. You can see on the weekly, there's still actually no divergence to be had right now. It will be forming if we were to make a slightly lower low, but that also does mean that does imply that we are going to make a lower low. I do think that it's worth pointing out that weekly Stokes are coming down pretty damn harshly here. I would be looking for them to, at the very least, bounce in this region. Again, it's not about being bullish or bearish. Just usually they're going to bounce in this region. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're out of the woods just yet. In fact, I'd say that would probably be one of the worst indicators to be using for that right now. But for judging a bounce, I do think so. And of course, just closing on a long-legged doji doodle like this, it does imply indecision. And usually after playing some pretty massive moves to the downside, it's probably setting us up for a nice little bouncy bounce. So let's go into the daily, see how this one closes well. I do like this, at least, again, short term, and I do think that probably, next week it's going to trade back up into the 280s, maybe even 290-ish region. The problem is that the longer that it stays below 300, the more and more this looks very nasty from a long-term perspective. And with this, with likely having a rally in this next week or two, It's great, but it's also concerning because we are going to be looking at a death cross, especially on the daily, which does hold significant amounts of weight, especially in, if you're getting it in your major Boris here, that being SPY. So rallying up into this is not actually good. I mean, it's not that it's not good. Of course, rallying is better than falling more, but rallying up into it while they're kind of, in the process of crossing is going to maybe set us up for like a perfect death cross on the daily, which would not be good. But we do have bullish divergence present and confirmed now, at least 2 drives on the daily here, so I do like that. Historical volatility percentile is quite mature here as well, so I do think that this is going to get some more fall through to the upside, probably somewhere around the mid 280s, maybe even 290. But if you do see a rejection right around 290ish region, where's a 21 actually? Oh, fuck me. It is around 290. God damn it. It's a little bit higher than that, but it will work its way down. That's going to tell us that we're very likely gonna retest the lows and maybe even head all the way down to that 235-ish region. But again, I'll just be going level by level here. I do think that we're closer than not close, and closing the weekly strong above the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average is good for now, or at least good enough for now. I should also point out that not weekly, but monthly has still been riding the 55 exponential moving average. So thus far, it's okay. It's within the realm of reason. But realistically, there is a major consideration here, which I hesitate to show this because I don't want to induce panic. And I'm also also I don't have any history for this on this asset, but we do have a very, 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 very good monthly sell signal on the Jewel for SPY. There's not really any good examples in the past. Maybe this one over here. Oh my God! And when was this? This was, of course, the 2000 fucking .com bubble crash. So this one was it's 50% down. 50% down move over the course of, about 3 years. Not good. So not the best. And then we also have a decent signal right around here. This was, of course, 08 and 09. And we have another 57% move down here. Again, I'm concerned about this because we see the Jewel coming from the same region. And this is actually a better sell signal than what we got right here or right here. And what's even more concerning about that is monthly RSI. While it is kind of following this trend line, to be fair, and it probably does have an initial bounce off the retest of the bearish control zone, the monthly RSI is nowhere near where it was when these two bottoms were put in. So longer term, do I think that the bottom is in for traditional markets? I think that would be very very naive for me to say right now. It's much too early to tell. And realistically, the only way that I really change my mind on traditional markets, like obviously be bullish again, is if we could close a weekly dildo back above about $300 or like 303 or 305, something like that would look good. Of course, levels relevant to the downside on the macro are going to be the last major low right around 235. Then if that area does get lost, then I suppose the next major area to be looking for is this last big breakout right around 220-ish region. And well, you really don't want that one to fail. Anyways, so fair enough. As it is right now, the 786 has valiantly held us up, or really the 886 for the wick low, and we're kind of hanging around the 618 right now from a Fibonacci perspective. So it is set up for a bounce. We'll have to see how this bounce ends this next week. But putting back the spotlight on Bitcoin, let's talk about the higher time frames here for a second. Let's start off with the weekly. So Bitcoin weekly is hovering right around the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average, very similar to what we saw in traditional markets. So I would say that, if I had to put my money on it right now, I do think that Bitcoin's going to close above these tomorrow, but that is my opinion. My opinion is irrelevant. If Bitcoin does close below these tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I will be looking for some more downside sooner rather than later. I will look for a retest of that 4,400 number, and likely that retest is going to fail. If it does even bounce it there. By the same token, if we do end above the 200 simple, or especially the 200 exponential moving average, which I think is quite likely, at least for the 200 simple, it's just like $100 higher than where we are right now. So it's really not asking for all that much. Then I do think that Bitcoin's going to, at the very least, play out a little bit of a bounce to the low 6,000s before deciding the next move. And then that bounce is going to be very insightful to where we end up overall. Anyways, that completely reminds me that I forgot to put on, I need to put on another cover for that five long Bitcoin position that I do have. Let's see, where's my deep in the monies? We got the 5,000 strike right here. That's not necessarily deep enough. We need to go to 48.75. This thing can fucking move. Let's see, and I would like to cover up the top of the range. So let's go back down over here. Because we actually do need to go back down to lower term time frames, but we can't use BitMexico right now. It's just the chart is just not as clean as the other ones. All right, so we'll go back to Stamp here. So if I could get the top side of the range, that'd be right around, let's call it 5,900, 6,000-ish region. So what would that be? Maybe like 2-ish? Yeah, I could certainly sell for that. I would sell probably 10 there actually, but I do need to cover my position. So I am happy to put on I am happy to put on a little bit there. And again, that is a cover against my long position. So I just want to make sure that I play the ranges here. I don't think that we're going to be breaking out of this guy in the next day. And these are daily options. By the way, these daily expiration options are amazing. Oh, they're fucking amazing. Holy shit! It's so much better to be taking profit with options than just straight up spot. It's just so much better. But anyways, just a little bit of an aside. Anyways, I don't think that we're going to be taking out this area over the weekend. We might test it, and in fact, if we do break above, especially this last little local high, 5650-ish region, I do think that we will test it. We will have a nice, and we will have the 21 exponential average starting to nicely align with this region as well. But I'm curious, what are momentum oscillators saying right now? Do we even have any bullish divergence present on 4-hour RSI? Holy shit! No, we actually do not. I'm curious what the highest time frame is that we have bullish divergence present on. And the 2-hour, no. Oh my God, no. Okay, let's go to the hourly. We got bullish divergence on the hourly. It's great. I think it's already probably played out though. Or in fact, actually, to be quite serious for a second, no, technically we do not have bullish divergence here. We did make a lower low on RSI, although bounce did come up to the 21. This was a pretty nice bounce, but Jesus fucking Christ, man. So fair enough. Anyways, to the downside of the range, like I said, I do think that Bitcoin probably does pop back down around 5150 to 5200-ish region. And I would be looking for a short-term bounce there. The question is, do we close an hourly below? We're using fucking hourlies right now. This is just ridiculous. Do we close an hourly below 5150? If that does happen, I would look for a quick retest of 4850 right here. But ultimately, measure move would be pointing us all the way down to 4450-ish region, which is 30-minute support. So we're really like cutting it down to the lower-term timeframes right now. I don't feel all that confident when getting that low, and so I'm really not going to be trading all that much on this weekend. I'll just be managing my open positions with options, and that's really all that I care to do right now. Other than that, what else do we want to talk about? Okay, so let's actually go back to the daily here. I am curious to see how our historical volatility percentile reads are looking like on a daily. And yes, it is getting pretty mature here. It is getting relatively similar to the major pivot points on the market that we've seen before, both to the upside and the downside, of course. This guy right here being a critical one on this high. This one right here being on the high, this one right here being on the low. These are all precipitating, pretty nice moves. This one over here, of course. This one over here, of course. This one on the last major low. So what I'm really looking for now to define a low in Bitcoin land is I want to see historical volatility percentile get this red. So we got tick number 1. Then I want to see Stoke start to turn up. That's going to be tick number 2. Preferably, there's also going to be bullish divergence accompanying that Stoke turn up. Do we have that present right now? We actually do. And then 3, and perhaps most important is RSI bullish divergence at no less than a daily, and we actually don't even have that in right now. In order to get bullish divergence, of course, we will have to either retest the lows or close on lower lows. So I think it would be naive to say that the damage is done just yet. I do think that we probably will, at the very least, test 4850 overall. The question is, does that hold or not? If it does not hold, well, I do think that we'll be coming back down to the low 4,000s, probably 4,200 once again, and try to put in a low there. But overall, it is quite concerning still that Daily Jewel is starting to flatten out a little bit. It's lost its slope just a little bit. I'm really trying to reach deep into the fucking what if drawer for the Bitcoin Boulaws here. Hey, at the end of it, this thing's fucking fucked. If you want my true opinion, I do think that it goes lower overall. But for now, probably going to play out of bounce. Daily Jewel still showing pressure down, but it's so aggressive. I do think that it's going to be in bouncy bounce territory relatively soon. Also, keep in mind from the daily jewel, if you do have access to the jewel, it is a weird thing, but generally we do find bottoms in the critical zone here below the 20 marker. All Bitcoin major long-term bottoms have been put in with a jewel signal below that region. Anyways, to kind of highlight it out right here, we have this low right here. We have this one right here. We have this one right here. We have this one right here, 6,000 low, again right here. Again right here, and again right here. So even in counter trend markets, that does get those major massive bounces pretty damn well. But that would suggest that we have a little bit lower to go as well. Like this jewel sell signal, or basically hodl your short signal, might bring us all the way back down here. So that would likely put Bitcoin in the low 4,000s, upper 3,000s once again. I didn't even follow up on the fucking intro to this video. Hey, Gap boys, get ready for this, you fucking moons. Anyways. Here's your gap. You want your gaps. I got your gaps, baby. Let's go back on over here. Oh man, turn your eyes away, moon boys. This one's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. Don't look. Don't look away. Look away. Look away. Yes, that's exactly right. Jesus fucking Christ, man. This is not actually a gap down here, but it is funny to hear that people want to always talk about the gap at like fucking 11,500 or the gap at 8,500. I think is where the last major one is. But no one wants to fucking look at the actual. No one wants to look at like the bearish ones, of course. So we do have one present down around here, around the prior low at about 3,500ish region. Is it a gap or not? I would say, looking at the daily right here, I wouldn't really consider it a gap, to be quite honest with you. But it's just funny that people don't want to talk about that one, or maybe people do want to talk about that one, but I don't hear it too often. Anyways, only in Krown's crypto cave can you hear dumb shit like that. Jesus Christ. So fair enough. As it stands right now, I'm not, I'm not necessarily convinced that this is going to be the ultimate low. I do think it's going to have a chance, and I would certainly change around my macro opinion if Bitcoin can start to get back above some critical levels, from a long-term historical standpoint perspective, which would be no less than like the low 7,000s on a weekly closing basis. If Bitcoin can do that, then maybe the hopium of this being one massive symmetrical triangle, could play out. And what I'm talking about is this right here. It is technically present, and we do have good symmetry on this. But symmetrical triangles have equal opportunity to break to the upside as the downside. So if we break to the upside, well, where would we be looking at? We probably will be looking at a break, well, relatively soon. I mean, somewhere around here, only a couple months away in July, we're in March. So March, April, May, June, July. So for 4 months or so in the next quarter, we probably do get this break. If we do break to the upside, well, a retest of 20,000 is probably likely. But if we break to the downside, oh, my chart doesn't go that low. Okay, so we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. Cancel that right on over there. Krown is always right, and Bitcoin is going to the moon no matter what. Oh man! Whoa! Hey. Jesus Christ, that came out of nowhere. Clear search history right now. Looking at the monthly, very, very problematic here as well. While I do think that this is good enough for a bounce, and perhaps this is actually better to be seen on the BLX index. Yeah, there we go. You do see that we have a clear test of the 89 exponential moving average right here, which essentially is a retest of the prior low. So as long as that does hold, you can still make an argument for it. I do think. The problem is that momentum oscillators here are absolutely fucked. Monthly Stokes straight to the fucking floor. Opening down after rejecting the bullish control zone. I really don't like that one. But what's most damning to me is the monthly RSI. We've had not several tests, but we've had enough tests of the bearish control zone that I do believe that the next time that we kind of test back into there might be an initial pullback, but usually around your third or fourth time, that's when it becomes a legitimate possibility, a probability that actually will break, and we'll get comfortable in the bearish control zone here. So it can take its time. It's not there just yet, but if we do make a lower low, especially below this one right here, it's not going to be interpreted very well by the market. And seeing as we are well below the exponential on this, I'm just not a fan of it. What's even more important, or sorry, I shouldn't say more important, but just as important is the weekly. And I think this one actually gets a little bit better just because the 377 has had more time to populate itself than the monthly moving averages, just by the nature of, it's period programming. We do see that we have, officially tested that to the downside, and thus far the reaction has been pretty damn good. And to be fair, this is a really good reaction. I mean, we are about 50% off the lows, which that would be what you look for in a capitulation event, like a very, 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 very nice bounce. The thing here is that if this is going to be capitulation, it would be incredibly unlikely that we come back down and even graze like the low 4,000s. I think that would be very unlikely. And of course, closing below the 4,000s would just make it just not that it's not likely. It's just this is not what capitulation is. You don't get 2 times to buy the capitulation bottom, or within reason of that area. So looking at this right here, this also is a little bit more damning as well. Looking at the higher time frames, mostly because this is okay. Well, I guess we have to do this on BLX index, but I don't want to do it on this chart because it's already like filled up with my matrix shit. But basically, if you can put in that same sort of symmetrical triangle that we were looking at earlier, something like this. Again, the biggest hopium of all time. But I will leave it in for now. We actually do have the right volume signature for this being a symmetrical triangle as well. Again, it does not imply a bias for the breakout. I mean, typically the breakout will come in the same direction as the trend, but for the people who are asking about the matrix chart, I should probably cover it now. We broke even the most lenient major support trend line coming in from our lows in August 2015 and our lows in December 2018 right here. So that is now going to become a major governing factor going forwards. So I would be looking for this kind of operate in the same way that we've seen in the past. So I'll go through the explanation of this one really, really quickly. Realize that I'm already 30 minutes into this video, but I'm having fun with this right now, so I don't want to stop. But looking at this, I'll explain it. All of these dotted trend lines represent the support trend lines of major parabolic market cycles, each and every one in Bitcoin's history. Starting off with this guy here in 2010 of September, and anchored right there, and also in November 2011 on this major low right here. Bitcoin breaks it the next year in February right here, and that becomes our governing factor, our parabolic highs essentially for the next for the next market cycle right here. In 2013 gets rejected, and then again in 2014 right here. Then Bitcoin comes back down. Where does it base upon? It bases upon that next trend line, which creates another support trend line anchored in both, what is this area, 2011 right here, and then our lows in 2015. That trend line gets retested actually really, really soon right after that in March, just a couple months later, and does get rejected right there. And then again on the high of the next parabolic market cycle right in over here in 2017, 2018 at $20,000. And what do you know? Bitcoin comes back down and then creates another support trend line for this next parabolic market cycle anchored in 2015 of August. And then also more recently, again in December 2018 right here. This one has now been broken once again. And I would be saying that, going onwards and forwards here, this probably does become our governing factor for the next parabolic market cycle. Now, this is, again, very, 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 very experimental, and I wouldn't be basing any real decisions off this trading-wise, but I do think that it offers up a very interesting way to be looking at this from a long-term perspective as what the price ceiling target is for the next parabolic cycle. So for the people talking about like 30,000, like, I'm not taking profit on Bitcoin before $30,000. Well, have some of that in your life. Well, let's see, when it's $30,000, even possible. Hey, stop it. It's getting ridiculous right now. But actually not that far away. November 2021, we actually do see this trend line start to get around that region once again. But that would be like a maximum area, and usually it doesn't test that ultimate high like anytime soon. And we can extend that going forward. So let's just look at what would be the high of this in, say, beginning of 2021. So going to the end of the year this year, it would say that we very unlikely do not even pass 15,000 by the end of this year, which I would say I'd probably agree with that. At the end of 2021, getting into 2022 right here, it would be as much as about $30,000. And if we were to extend that to another year into 2023, that would be about $60,000. and it does rise quite rapidly. I mean, this is a pretty damn aggressive trend line. And then another year after that, about 150,000. But remember, market cycles happen, and well, this one's going to evolve as time goes on. And my own thoughts and opinions on this have actually changed quite a bit since I started showing this about a year ago. As more information comes available. But I do feel quite confident on this right now. I do really like how this lines up from a Fibonacci perspective as well. I mean, check this out. Bitcoin did hit directly down to the 377 exponential moving average right here, which is also the 786 Fibonacci retracement on a Fibonacci retracement taken from the ultimate high from the ultimate low of the prior market cycle right on over here to the ultimate high of our past market cycle right on over here. And we did bottom out at about the 786 for now. Where do we bottom out in the past one? Actually, right around the 786. We did get wicks lower. We actually got wicks low to the 886, which here would be low 2000. Don't say that. I actually do think that we're going to go to 2000 though. But on a weekly closing basis, we did not really violate the 786, or within reasonableness of it. And then if we go to a one prior to that, we do see that the 886 held it up back on over here as well. So I would be looking at that, with skeptical eyes, but interesting nonetheless. And kind of does align. Well, let me get rid of this trend line right here, and let me get rid of this. This is just that's just too much. That's just too much, man. It's just too much. Maybe it's something a little bit more like this, and we actually do end up hitting that area. But I'll have to look at that one a little bit more with in my own lab. For right now, though, it does seem to me that from a Fibonacci perspective, we are respecting these very, very well. So it does seem to be a good edge to be going off of. And what do you know? The 618 is coming in right around low 7,000. So I would go as far as saying, let me make sure that I'm recording. Okay, I'm recording and the microphone's working. That's great. I would go as far as saying that as long as we are below 7,000, I am not looking at this. I would not say that this is confirmed like major macro low. And even that would be aggressive. I mean, technically, we'd want to see back above $10,000 on a weekly closing basis, which is pretty much around the 0.5. That would do it as well. But for right now, what's really going on here is we're seeing the charts morph into something completely new, and we most likely just need to wait. We just need to wait until something obvious starts to populate itself. For right now, pressure is down, or overall macro pressure is down. Short term probably does bounce up, bounce targets. I think getting back into the low 6,000 region would not be asking for too much, and certainly within the realm of possibility. But maintaining higher time frame closes in there, that's where I get a little bit skeptical. And looking at Bitcoin kind of curl back down around to give you late buyers another chance to buy the low seems a little bit suspect to me. I think that this is not good down here. In fact, we probably even have some hidden bearish divergence even present between, oh my God, the RSI got so beat up that we have hidden bearish divergence between about 6,100 right here and this local high right here. So yeah, we're probably going to come back down at the very least to 5,150, 5,200-ish region, which isn't that much right now. But when I started this video, we were trading around 5,500, right? So now it's it's being a little more actionable, and momentum also is looking like they want to turn down as well. You see the 4-hour Stochs getting stonewalled here on the March 11 before that last drive down from about 6,200 to really like 3,500, I guess. And really struggling to get out of the bearish control zone, especially on a weekend. I wouldn't expect a reversal here, and so I don't think that Bitcoin's going to be going back above 6,100. We'll call it. It could test it, but I'd be looking for sells in that region, as you saw me kind of plot my options trades there. Anyways. What about other lower time frames? 3 hours, a little bit under pressure still. We're still kind of following this trend line. Or no, we could be. No, we are testing this trend line right now. Yeah, no, not even any bullish divergence. I mean, this is just fucking wrecked. 2 hour looks very nasty as well. 2 hour Stochs having a fresh cross down. Same with hourly as well. So these guys are probably going to pull through on the 3 hour and the 4 hour, right, as these guys test at the edge of the bearish control zone. I do think that we're going to test the downside of the range. The question is, how far down do we go? I think at the very least 5,150. Probably test 4,850 though. Probably test 4,850, and I would be looking for at the very least a short term bounce there. However, I'd be very skeptical. Right now. Anyways, what else do we want to do? Okay. Do I want to talk about this right now? No, let's talk about expected moves chart. By the way, I'm gonna have a massive announcement with the expected moves chart relatively soon. Okay, so let's keep in mind all of the critical areas. Again, putting on the blue box territories. Let's go right here. I want to go to my Bitstamp chart. The critical ones for like the medium time frames is going to be we'll call it 6,000 because it's easy to say, and then 4850 down here. So let's go to a 12-hour first. Let's see what the probabilities kind of align with. Oh, and what do you know? They fucking perfectly outline everything that's relevant here. And what do you know? The 12-hour historical volatility the 12-hour expected moves with regards to historical volatility percentile are starting to squeeze down once again. Not fucking good. First standard deviation bottom side is coming in right around that 4850-ish target down around here. So it would suggest that we have a less than 16% chance to close below there today. I do think that Bitcoin would probably bounce from that region. I don't think that we're going to get continuation of the downside today. I don't think that we're going to have a reversal to the upside today, which would be had above about 6,100. You can see that the 1.5 and second standard deviation are accurately getting this blue box right here. So that would give us about a less than 2.5 to 10% chance to really close in or above this blue box territory in the next 12 hours worth of price action. So again, to me, that would likely be a sell in that region. Looking at the daily, same sort of thing going on right here. The 1.5 standard deviation is coming in right around the top side, as well as oh my god, it's actually less probability. Or sorry, no, it would be more probability on the daily. What the fuck? I must have had a massive brain fart right there. But less than a 16% chance to close above the top one and complete the medium term reversal and probably initiate a move back up to like, maybe even as high as like 69 or 7,000. So that'd be very, very tradable, and perhaps even does happen this coming week. But remember, that doesn't really change around anything from the macro view. As long as we're below 7,000, it is not good. By the same token, to the downside, we do see the first in aviation accurately getting the bottom side of the blue box, saying that we have a less than 16% chance to see continuation below that level in the next day's worth of price action. Again, that level being about 4850-ish region. So, overall, that just makes me think that we're going to see a day of ranging here. I do think that tomorrow Bitcoin probably does close above the 200 simple, maybe even the 200 exponential average. And if that does happen, I would look for this next week of price action to be a bouncy bounce week, and Bitcoin's going to test into at the very least the low 6,000s. If it can clear above our blue box at 60, I want to make sure that I get it right, at about 6150, I would look for extension to the next relevant region, which is short term it would be like 6,500-ish region. Probably, yeah, about 66 right here. Let me actually put it in. There we go. I like that. I like that. I like that. And then above there, I'd be cognizant of the basically like $7,000 region. Nice. What's it called? Psychological number. But for right now, we're pretty much in the like the infancy of this dumpy dump. So things will change around quite rapidly, and it's going to be very important for me to update my thoughts daily because things are likely to change. But for right now, I do think that Bitcoin's essentially just going to be playing a game of ranges this weekend between about as much as like 5,900 to 6,000 region, and as low as like hopefully no lower than 4,850. But if we do break below, especially this blue box territory right here, or even this last prior local low, that target will get extended after a small bounce in the 4,850-ish region all the way down to about 4,450-ish region right here, and I'll be looking for another bounce there at the very least on the lower term time frames. Do I want to get into explaining this? I mean, I don't want to explain this one fully because tomorrow I'll go into much more detail with it. But for right now, we can zoom in on this baby, and we can see very easily that we have that same signature that has precipitated all 50 to 70% retracements in Bitcoin's past. So talking about long-term bottoming areas, or do I even want to do that right now? Talking about long-term bottom. It's fucked. Talking about long-term, I'll do it for a second, I suppose. We can kind of get a gauge of what to expect from this signature here, where we get the purple and the pink, the purple and the pink, the more reactive versus the lesser reactive, both below the regression line. That has always resulted in, at the very least, a 50% retracement. We had this, I'll explain it very briefly here. Yesterday's video goes into much more detail, and then I'll explain it tomorrow in much more detail. But when you get some like this, we get some like more recently, like we didn't really get it over there, like this right here as well, and in the past in 2014 right here, and again at the beginning of 2014 right here. We always have had pretty nasty pullbacks or crashes, if you want to call it that. So I'll start off with this one right in over here. You probably remember this one. It was a nice 50% down from top to bottom. from signal given to next major low. We got this guy right here, another 70% down from top to bottom, and I'll line these ones up tomorrow, but for right now I don't want to go through the whole rigmarole. This video is already quite long. This one over here, we had another signal. There's 75%, and I've done this so many fucking times now that I don't even need the chart to tell me where it is. This one over here, another 70% down, and then there's another signal given right here with the same signature for 76% down. Anyways, let's just see how that kind of line up with our current price action from last high to next major low. We have already traded down about 63%, which is in line. It is in line with it, but because we are playing a game of percentages here and we are playing with big numbers, the difference between 63% down and 75% down, on the more aggressive end, is quite significant. 75% down would put us into the mid to low 2000s, which is personally where I think Bitcoin probably does find its low if this is not going to be it. If this low really does get violated, and what would be very problematic is if we get like a weekly close below the 200 simple tomorrow, then I do think that ultimately we will head down to the mid to low 2000s region. It'll take its time, most likely, although you've seen me be drastically terrible with doing time sort of analysis. I don't think that it can really be done. The closest thing I can get to that is historical volatility percentile, but that's only giving you likelihoods. It's not giving you dates. So with that said, I do think that it's possible that we've seen the low. I would say the probabilities are not on it though. Unfortunately, our probability chart's not going to really give us a good read on that because it's not optimized for like a weekly or a monthly, which is the time frame that we'd have to really look at it on. But getting like if we got 2 consecutive closes below the 200 simple on a weekly, I'd feel very confident with Bitcoin going not just down to the last prior low at 3,500-ish region, but another $1,000 to $1,500 lower at two to $2,500 somewhere in there is where I'd be looking for a major low. Until that happens, we're stuck on the lower time frames with all this bullshit. Anyways, let's go check out Mr. Buteral and Mrs. Litecoin. Let's check out some of the market leaders, see how they're holding up right now. And you can see that they pretty much look like the same fucking chart now, don't they? In fact, Mr. Buteral making a lower low than what we printed earlier this year in December 2019. Sorry, not earlier this year, but late last year. And basically retested the prior low, what would have been like 3,100 on Bitcoin in December 2018 for Mr. Buteral right around here as well. The problem is that this is now creating it looks to me like it's creating one massive descending triangle on the macro. This has severely hampered the case for a long-term bullish case on Mr. Buteral, and I'd imagine on most altcoins. Now, the bullish case would be this. And I'm gonna first at the outset say this is fucking hopium right here. I don't believe this. I think that this one probably goes lower. But as long as it does follow this trend line right here, you can make the argument that maybe it morphs itself into some sort of an ascending triangle on the lows. That would mean that I don't want to see a goddamn weekly close below 130. Ever. A weekly close, of course. The problem is now though is that what we're really seeing here is something more like this. We have macro lower highs, and now we've just tested the prior low. And what does that sound like? Well, that's the ingredients for creating, or if we go wick to wick here, that's the ingredients for creating a long-term descending triangle. So perhaps we play in this region for a long time. If you see this trend line to the upside get respected long-term, then that's probably what we're doing. And this trend line can be extended pretty much all the way over here, to be fair. And that would I don't want to do a measure move on this one because it's going to be literally like around zero. But here's the thing, the monthly is officially in a downtrend, right? We took out last month's low. We confirmed a lower high and took out last month's low all in the same fucking red dildo. I mean, this is not good by any stretch of the imagination. So I would be more or less bearish on this one. And we do see monthly Stokes looks like one have a fresh cross to the downside, and monthly RSI is essentially doing what I think Bitcoin RSI is likely to do as well. Mrs. Litecoin over here. Same sort of thing, actually, did we make new lows? No, we did not. We came within about $2.50 of making new lows, but more importantly, on the monthly, we have confirmed a monthly downtrend. There's your high, there's your last low, there's your next lower high. That was your low. Now, of course, we are trading below that low as it is right now. Of course, maybe it does get salvaged by the end of the month, but looks to me like we are trending to the downside on a fucking monthly, by the way, on a fucking monthly. Momentum oscillators are all but fucked here too. Monthly Stochs straight down. This one never even got to the bearish control zone, to be fair. Monthly RSI, again, 1, 2, and now 3 tests into this region. I'm not a fan of that either. Might have an initial bounce. We are seeing an initial bounce. This one's literally up, 40, 50%, same thing as Bitcoin. But long term, when we're looking at a monthly and we're seeing these signals kind of, come to fruition, these are going to be playing out, over the next few months, not necessarily today. So on top of that, we do see the red 10 simple looking across the downside of the yellow 21, literally as they test each other. That is the most perfect cross I've seen in a long time. Also not good. What about Ripple's nipples? The Ripple army is going to save me on this one, aren't they? We'll skip that one. Neo in a full-on monthly meltdown as well. There's no real price targets for these guys. These are on monthly downtrends. This is EOS. These are just shitty charts. These are terrible shitty charts. Tron's back below 1 cent. This chart is it's a dead heartbeat is what it is. Bcash is this. Do people even follow this one anymore? I don't know. What about BNB? CZ wouldn't do this to me. Come on, CZ, show me that stimulus package bait. Actually, one of the better acting ones. To be fair, I shouldn't make fun of it. It is one of the better charts we do see. Do have to be non-partial. Let's go check out Chainlink. Oh my god. Do you think that Chainlink probably does bounce a little bit up here? I do want to fall. This is just such a good example of the other day around the 5th and 6th of March when we were getting a perfect sell signal on the on the daily Jewel on Link. I was saying, this looks bullish to me, but the Jewel does say sell, and I've always been wrong when I disagree with the Jewel. Once again, I am wrong. The trend continues, and the trend is your friend until the end of the trend, and I don't see that one ending anytime soon. I do think that it bounces up a little bit more here, though. This one can bounce quite a bit up to maybe even up all the way to $3. But I would be looking for resistance right around $3, and I would not be bullish from a macro standpoint as long as it's below about $3. So yeah. What else do we want to look at? Gold, my gold rocks. That fucking coronavirus hates gold rocks. You know what? Oh shit. Fuck. Yes. Peter Schiff's not gonna like this one. It probably does bounce coming into next week, but I'd be looking for that bounce to be sold into. It can pop all the way back up to like 1585 region. It's not, wouldn't be a big issue. Massive bearish engulfing to end the week. All momentum oscillators down. Major bearish divergence presenting itself. Even the monthly. Monthly says that we probably come back down to like 1430, 1450 before this is all said and done. Nice. All right, what else do we want to look at? I think that's about it, probably. It's already been an hour long. Holy shit. Let's see. I feel like I'm missing something though. What could I be missing right now? And we'll go back to Bitcoin. And for now, I actually don't think that looking at BitMexico is very helpful. Its chart is just it's not consistent with the majority of charts right now. Let's see if there's any Jewel buy signals kind of formulate themselves. We did get a buy signal on the low or around the low. Where did this one come in? Yeah, it came in on this wick down here to about 4,800. So I do think that one's mostly played out. I would not get too aggressive with these signals right now. Yes, this was a pretty damn good signal right here, but it's already played out more than $1,000 to the upside from a 4-hour signal. I'd be looking for it to come back down again and then set up for like another perfect signal, and that's probably going to be a much more reasonable low. Let's also see what are the 12-hour Stochs doing. Oh, they're up. Okay, I'm bullish. You can spend 50 hours going through my programs and spending a shit ton of money, or you can trade the 12-hour Stochs. And The 12-hour stocks are probably going to be just as good, if not better. I mean, it's that fucking simple right now. 12-hour RSI nowhere near. Well, it is going to make divergence on the next drive down, but that does imply that we will close on a lower low than 4850. So perhaps Bitcoin does come all the way down to like 4200, and we do put in another low there, and then we'll actually start to put in some divergence plays on the 12-hour daily and maybe even weekly. Actually, probably not the weekly because weekly's nowhere near, but the 12-hour and daily are, and momentum oscillators for these ones are pretty damn beat up. So I do think that that's possible, possible over the next couple of weeks. But for right now, let's wrap this bitch up. Once again, put back on all of our drawing tools. I think I'll do this one on Bitstamp. It does look like on the very low time frames, Bitcoin is trying to put itself into some sort of a symmetrical triangle here. No bias on which way that we break out, although it does look to me like at the very least we will be testing the downside of it at 5150-ish region. If that does break, I would really want to see it on something higher than an hourly though. Then I will look for that move to get extended all the way down to 4850. I would look for a small bounce there, but even just violating this last prior low at 5,000 even on an hourly closing basis, anywhere below there, I'd look for a small bounce here, but I do think that ultimately we will meet the measure move all the way down to about 4450 down around here, and then try to put in some divergence on like the 12 or something like that. By the same token, to the upside, a little bit more forgiving, I suppose. If we could get an hourly delta closing above 5,700, I would look for this to test, test our blue box at the very least at 6,100. Technically, the measure move is actually a little bit higher, all the way at 6,400. So it does make me think that that's probably not going to get hit, because remember, looking at the expected moves chart alongside the fact that it is a it is a weekend, and an actual reversal on the weekend is very unlikely to get any follow through. In fact, ever since CMEs have debuted, reversals that happen on a weekly, reversals, not continuation, but reversals, be very clear, because sometimes people mishear me on this one and can create a lot of confusion and a lot of very mad people. But reversals on the weekend since CMEs have come out have never had any follow through, from what I can recall, which I believe is correct. It's either 5% have played through, gotten continuation on a weekly reversal during the week, or none at all. And I think that 5% was like, I was basically making a major excuse for price actions, like even in the worst case, just very unlikely. So I do not think it would be very likely that we head up here. If Bitcoin does test around 6,000 to 6,100, I think that it'll be a likely sell for myself. Of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I would be taking, I am interested in positions there for at the very least covering my spot longs. And I'd be looking for Bitcoin to just essentially play between these regions until the weekend's end, and with specific attention to tomorrow's weekly close. If the weekly closes above the 200 simple, I do think that Bitcoin will at the very least rally back up to test around low 6,000. If Bitcoin closes the weekly above the 200 exponential moving average at 5,900, though, I do think that Bitcoin will rally up quite a bit more towards around the 6,500 region, where we'll get our next test, and that's where we can talk about maybe some long-term positions once again. Although we won't talk about which side just yet. Anyways, that's going to do it for right now. I want to wish you well once again. It has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you this lovely morning, and it's actually kind of nice and sunny right now too. So with that said, take care, and until next time.